Hey everybody, welcome to today's live stream. Let's go over the major pivot for Bitcoin and what I'm particularly interested in this week. So we'll start on the 2-hour chart, mostly because it maxes out close to that 600 period, which is the limit to 3 to 8 p.m., while still capturing the true length of the expansion. And it also provides really clear readings of volatility overhead because of the period look back being roughly the same as to where we don't get any new expansions defined. So that results in a really clean chart and one I'm willing to continue trading. Alrighty. So we're just getting a very typical expansion pattern here. And I'm just going to go randomly find a previous one because why not? All right. Beautiful. So here's one where we get expansion, which is just trend, and then a compressionary period, which then generates a sloping compressionary range, which has the 1.25 standard deviation for intense compression, and then the outer edges for defined swing high, swing low. And just do be aware that when the compression range ends, it can mean resumption of trend. So that's something I'm going to be keeping a close eye on these upcoming days. And it's typically seen by a new expansion, which does respect volatility overhead quite a bit. So if we go inside the purple band, it means mean reversion to the purple mean. And as long as we have green bands, we tend to stay in the green bands, okay? That's as close as I can put it to lay terms as I can. So what do we see? We have green bands, we have a mean reversion pivot. Very nice. So as long as the green bands are around, well, we got a compressionary range. Sure, we could stay in there, who knows? If we touch the swing low and the band holds, cool, I'll take a long. If we touch the swing high, cool, I'll take a short. However, if we go inside the purple band, that's inherently a bullish condition, all right? When I first started talking about this, it was around 9,500. That has finally dropped to 8,800, and it's going to keep on dropping. So that's usually how bear flags see continuation, is where we get a huge move, and then, oh, we're just going to flag it out. Why? Because there's not enough potential energy in our shorter periods. So when we finally do get around to those, we want to continue pushing price down, well, it would require an unrealistic amount of force in order to do so. And because of that, it's far simpler to just leave price alone, right? Like, let's assume you're pushing a snowball. Right? The more you push it, the larger it gets. All right? Eventually, it's going to get so big, you got one of two choices. One, call your friends and help you push it. All right? That's adding more force, or in this case, adding more volume. Your other option is to leave it alone. You leave it in the sun. It'll eventually melt down to size, and then you can continue rolling it whichever way you want with less required force. All right? That's why bear flags form, right? Where we have this compression happening on all these shorter periods, right? This blue is the snowball melting in the sun. The higher it gets, the higher the potential energy, and the more trend would be able to resume. So eventually, mean reversion pivot's going to come down and meet price. And price action is going to be forced to either see trend continuation by rejecting off the mean reversion pivot, or by going inside the band, which would further emphasize longer-term compression. Longer-term compression, it would be a bullish scenario. Why? Because if we have a compressionary pivot that looks like this, right, this purple band here, if we enter the compressionary period, it means, hey, we're going to stay compressing until the entire snowball is melted. That's essentially what it means. So if we go inside price, if price goes inside the purple band, it will stay inside the purple band until the 500 period over here turns green, which would be it returning below the 0.7 value on the wave PM. So what's really nice about this is when you get trend definition like this really nice clean pivot, it's either or. That's what's nice about it. You're either going to get trend continuation or you're going to get compression. And this happens very reliably. Just the question is, how do you properly enter into the condition? Well, you need to catch the swing low on a bullish condition or the swing high in a bearish trend continuation scenario. So I can give you a bearish entry for the swing high, or I can give you a bullish entry on the swing low, and that'll take some getting used to. So you could use a 50 period CCI rollup after condition activation for longs, and then you could actually just use the rejection from that 1.25 standard deviation of the 500 period for short entries. Okay. Just be aware that every time we approach the pivot, it's 50-50 either way, right? What's nice about the pivot is that once it's crossed, it'll very reliably do what I want it to, but I have no way of predicting if it will actually cross the pivot at all. All right? That's the one downside of the strategy. I can predict something with very high accuracy, but only in an either-or sense, okay? Right? So, like, let me think of a cool analogy. Like, let's say you got a kid at a playground standing at the top of 2 slides, all right? I can't tell you which slide he's going to go down until he starts going down a slide. Once he chooses one, I can very reliably tell you which one he's going to pop out of. But the question is, which one's going to happen? I don't know. That's totally out of my hands. Why? Because I don't control the one making the decisions. I can only tell you the result of his decisions. And it is kind of fun imagining market makers as children, but again, I still have very little control over what they do, so we just gotta sit tight, wait for whatever happens next, which is a little frustrating, because we could get trend continuation and we could get mean inversion. Just as soon as we see one, we can bet on it. We just can't until then. Unless, you have like market orders in each direction, but then that gets super technical and messy and requires constant monitoring and adjustment so you can properly stop out of your market entered positions. Yeah, we're not getting into that. I'm not going to tell you how to do that. I'm just going to show you the pivots, and then when they're crossed, you can enter a position. That's it. All right. I had a request to look at RSR. I've never heard of that. Reserve rights. Oh, God. I don't know what this is. But it was... Dude, I don't know what this is. I can't tell you anything about this. I would have to do prior research. Expansion and compression cycles are super muddy. What is... Okay. Reserve rights. RSR BTC? Oh... That's why. It's a low cap. Not a low cap, a low pip. No, still not right. A low tick. A low tick coin. Right? Tick length is super long, which makes USD pairings look even worse. So I can't analyze this, especially with how little history there is. If you get super defined trend to the upside, cool. You can try to catch the swing low using quad CCI. But I would not preemptively attempt to enter a position. Okay? I'll check ETH for a second. I'm actually kind of surprised how well ETH/USD has been holding. Because I've been in ETH/USD since over here for almost a year now. Wow. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I entered at $200. And I just had it, so I'm down 10%. Although it's kind of funny to think that that little upside there is 75%. So... it does appear to be some slight downtrend, but that's a major red volume, and we barely broke support. If you look at those red wicks there, that does imply bullishness, because it means there's immediate rejections beneath support values, right? I don't usually use support that often. Let's hide some lines here. But if you have a distinctive local low, like that, right? And you get repeated large downsides that are immediately rejected following with a reversal, it has bullish implications. So some really basic TA there. You could consider that a liquidity hunt. I would not stress it too much. However, we do have a really clean mean inversion condition based on this generated downward move. Because I know we're uptrending on the BTC pairing, which I'm really into. So if we have a bullish mean reversion condition on the 4-hour chart, hey, I'll gladly take that position. Let's load up ACAT, see what it looks like. Oof. Okay, so that's just aggressive converse expansion, but we are getting something really cool here. Right? Remember what I said about once we enter a condition, it's very hard for us to leave a mean reversion condition? Well, we had an upward expansion here. We activated the condition here. And then, guess what? We can't leave the condition until the longest overexpanded period returns below the 0.7 value. So, right, we have the 180 period here, and until it turns green, we can't leave the band. So what happens? Hey, that's why we're getting these large wicks to the downside. Because we are attempting to move the snowball while it's still iced to the ground, all right? So we actually stay in the condition really cleanly. It's hard to resume trend while you still have a large amount of mass. Wow, that is super clean. So like one of my favorite positions is if you have a bearish mean reversion condition and you actually touch the 1.25 standard deviation of the downside of that condition, it can be super profitable to take the swing low of that, because typically the slope of probability volatility, or which is just the slope of the 1.25 standard deviation of the distribution, can be really indicative of a bounce. And we had a really good trade on BAT a while ago. I guess I could find it. Like, it was ages ago, though. Let's see if I can just recognize the price action. Might be difficult. Oh, wait, I think that might be it. One of these. Yeah, there it is. No. Oh well. Yeah, it's a pretty rare condition. I just remember taking it on BAT once, but I'm not seeing it. Okay. Check the YouTube comments one last time. Looks like that's it for today. It has been a pleasure, and I'll see you all tomorrow at 1 p.m. MST. Have a beautiful day.